Okay, okay, this is video number 3. Yes, and excuse my appearance. I'm not the best shaver. I'm not the best groomer in the world, and it's kind of late here. I live in Southern Oregon in America, and it's almost 11 o'clock, and I've been trying to figure out how I was going to do these videos. So I'm just recording them, and like I said, we'll see what the final product is. Let's go back to the Savior business. And again, as I tell you this story, you're going to see that it can't be dismissed so easily, because I know a lot of people would look at me. Oh, I forgot to say on the video where I was talking about, yes, I'm into spiritual teachings, but no, I don't go around talking about unconditional love. I don't believe it's necessary. If that's what you want to do, then do it. I know a number of people who have gone around preaching things like, unfortunately, they betray the fact that it's almost impossible, especially if you have certain responsibilities. It's almost impossible to walk around, and I don't think it's human nature. And like I said, there are many ways to get to a certain level of soul evolution, and that one is just one way. And I don't know if I've ever seen anybody do it. And people like that a lot of times are phony, and they don't have any responsibilities. So it's easy for them to go around talking about unconditional love. I don't go around. I don't say it. And if I did, I'd be quite a hypocrite because I don't feel it. In fact, there are a number of people that I flat out don't like them. So much if you think I'm supposed to go around talking about unconditional love. Look, I'm the judge of humanity. I got other fish to fry. We're not worrying about unconditional love. Not that I don't think people should get along. Matter of fact, I'm very good at getting along with people, but I don't go around talking about love them. I like to just get along, and I have a very good reputation, maybe better said had, because these days it's hard to get along with people, but I've had a very good reputation, and people have told me I'm very good at getting along with people, just not the what I believe is very phony, is people go around talking about unconditional love. Okay, so covered that. Um, let's go back to when I found out that I was the Savior. That happened to me in the fall of '77, and as I said, the story is not just about me. This is not some delusion that I just made up or anything. You're going to find out it's quite a story. And it's actually a story that I don't care for, but can't go back and change that. So in the fall of 1977, I was getting my second degree. I majored in Russian studies at the University of Virginia, and I studied in Leningrad. It was called Leningrad, St. Petersburg today, I guess. I haven't been back there, but I studied there for a semester, and I'd majored in Russian studies, but I had no interest in, basically the only jobs were either be a professor or go work for the intelligence agencies, or maybe I should call them the not so intelligence agencies. And I did get a letter from the CIA because I was a good Russian student, but wasn't wasn't interested in that, and I'm sure they wouldn't have hired me anyway once they started interviewing me. So I was trying to figure out what to do, and I lost a lot of years in my 20s because I struggled with the kind of career to get. But in '76, I decided to become a computer programmer, or just somebody who worked with computers. I got a general degree, and it was called information systems, that I could have worked in software. I could have gone to work for a computer company and done support. I could have done various things. I ended up getting into software, and that was my first attraction to computers in the first place. But in the fall of '77, I was finishing my second degree. My first degree, like I said, was in Russian studies. And I've studied Marxism and communism, and I can tell you about certain people walking around today. Boy, they may not, I don't know if they subscribe to Marxism, but they sure are communist. And I saw it with my own eyes. But I was trying to, like I said, now get my some kind of career going. And in the summer of '77, I went to visit my friends, these friends of mine that I had met in a very, very, very strange story in '75. They were from California, but I met them outside of Charlottesville, where I was selling insurance door to door. That's another story. Right after I'd gotten back from studying in the Soviet Union, or I didn't really study much, being in the Soviet Union for a semester, and I didn't know what to do because, like I said, I didn't want to do anything with the Russian, and I didn't know what I was going to do. So I met these people out in the country, and they changed my life because they were into. If you've heard of this show called Coast to Coast, it talks about UFOs and conspiracy theories and spiritual teachings, metaphysics, different kinds of metaphysics, and many other subjects, science and so on. These people were into all that stuff in 1975, and again, this was in Virginia, and Virginia is not a very aware place. It's not a place of any kind of higher consciousness. There are people who live there who are into higher consciousness, but the state is not. And so I met these people, and I assume we were brought together because they turned me on. If I hadn't met them, I don't know what would have happened to me. So I went to visit them in the summer of '77 because they had moved back to California. And I went to San Diego. I got one of those drive-away cars. That was a story. Thing used oil. I had to put so much oil in there, it was beyond belief. Some guy didn't, make the payments, so it was a repo. So I drove it across the country, put a lot of oil in it. It had some funny stories. So I spent the summer of '77 in San Diego, and I started to, get into metaphysics and a little bit of UFOs. I'm not into that too much, but I think it's an interesting subject, and a lot of other things. And now here's where the story is going to get really complicated because if you know what a synchronicity is, I don't know, again, it depends on who watches this. It's when some things come together that aren't related. It's an acausal kind of a coincidence, and so it's a synchronicity. And my friends were introducing me to a lot of different kinds of books, and I was reading this book called 2150, which is a science fiction book about I think this guy, it's been so long since I read it. It was a great book. It's about this guy who I think he'd lost his leg in the Vietnam War. It's a fiction story. It's a very good book, like I said. And he starts astral traveling, if you know what that is. If you don't, you should learn. He starts astral traveling. These female guides take him to the year 2150 on the astral plane. But the way the book is written, he really experiences it. And by 2150, humanity has evolved to a point that most people get what I was talking about on the other video, the one concept, everything is one, the one concept of God. And yet there's many gods also, but there is a one concept of God that pervades everything. And by 2150, according to this science fiction book, humanity had gotten it, and most people. And so the book, as I recall, just shows this guy how people were living the one consciousness kind of life, most of them. And then there were some other people who were in the consciousness we're in right now, and they were living on a smaller island because, they were the minority. Today, it's overwhelming minority of thing. So I was getting into this. I was reading this book about the one concept of God, which I'd never heard of before, but made a lot of sense. And I used to be into this rock group named Yes, and Yes is going to be a big part of my story. Now I'm past 9 minutes, and I'm not going past 10 minutes on any of these videos. I decided about that. So I was getting into the one in this book, and the group Yes put out an album, and they called it Going for the One. And I didn't think too much. I mean, I thought, hey, that's kind of interesting. The two things kind of coincided. So from that point on, I started listening to this album called Going for the One a lot, and getting into other aspects of, this awareness. I'll call it awareness, metaphysics, UFOs. Although, again, I'm not that big of a fan of the UFOs. I'm open to it, but and many other things. And I do believe in conspiracy theories, and I'm sure we'll be talking about that. Now, I'm right at 10 minutes, so I will end this now, and then we will resume on the next video.